September 1866. A terrible tragedy strikes the small town of Altana in Western Australia. 6-year-old Jacob Mills disappeared while playing in the woods near his home. His frantic parents searched for their son all night, but by morning, hope had faded. The boy was nowhere to be found. Now, 4 days later, the whole town is out looking for Jacob. It's a huge group, almost like a mob. And right in the middle of them is Dr. Timothy Harding, a man who has devoted his life to science. As a former army surgeon, he'd seen his fair share of tragedies, yet something about this case intrigued him. After hours of fruitless searching, the group was just about to give up when Timothy called out, "There's a well here. Let's look in there." Sure enough, when they peered over the edge, they saw something incredible. At the bottom of the well was a young boy who appeared to be alive. Without hesitation, Timothy climbed down into the well and pulled the boy out. Everyone crowded around, their faces filled with concern. The little boy was barely conscious. All they could do was carry him out of the well and lay him on a nearby blanket. But even as he was carried away, the boy kept looking back at the well as if it held some kind of fascination for him. Harding noticed that while everyone else was praying for the boy, Timothy remained silent. He didn't utter a word, but his eyes were fixed on the dying child. What was going through his mind? Was he thinking about the case, or perhaps he simply had no faith in God? A few hours later, the boy died in front of them. The townspeople were devastated. They'd lost hope of saving the child, but to have him die before their very eyes was heartbreaking. Yet Timothy seemed strangely calm. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his forehead, then turned to leave. "Doctor," someone called after him, "will we ever find out what happened to the poor child?" Harding stopped and looked back, a strange smile playing on his lips. "Oh, I believe we will," he said cryptically. And with that, he strolled away, leaving the others to bury the child. As the days passed, the story of Jacob Mills faded from the headlines. People went back to their daily lives, and the tragedy of the well became a thing of the past. However, Timothy couldn't let go. He kept replaying the events of that day in his head. Something about the case just didn't sit right with him. He decided to return to the well to investigate further. This time, no one was there, but Timothy was prepared. He brought a rope with him and carefully climbed down into the well. What he discovered shocked him. It was obvious to Timothy that the well had been cleverly disguised. Someone had placed the boards so perfectly that it looked more like a manhole cover than a well. But why would someone go to such lengths? And why did the boy keep looking back at the well as if it held some kind of fascination for him? With these questions in mind, Timothy began to dig in the dirt at the bottom of the well. To his surprise, he soon uncovered a small wooden box. He pried it open and found a collection of children's toys, a red ball, a blue hat, and a pair of shoes. But it was the inscription on the box that really caught his attention. It read, "For my precious Jacob," followed by a date, September 1866. Could it be that someone had put the boy in the well? Who could have done such a thing, and why? Harding was determined to find the answers, but his investigation was about to take a shocking turn. As he continued digging in the dirt, he came across a human skull. It was old and had clearly been there for a long time. Timothy carefully examined the skull and realized that it belonged to a young girl. But that was only the beginning. He soon uncovered a skeleton wearing a dress. Then he found another skull, this one belonging to a young boy. Harding had stumbled upon a grave. He quickly dug up the rest of the bodies and laid them side by side. There were 3 in total, 2 girls and a boy, all around the same age as Jacob. But how were they related, and what had happened to them? The answer, as it turned out, was both tragic and horrifying. The children had been siblings, and their father, driven by a twisted sense of love, had killed them and buried them in the well. He'd hoped that by keeping their bodies close, he could protect them from the outside world. But in doing so, he'd only succeeded in sealing his own fate. Their story may have ended here, but for those who discovered their bodies, their pain was just beginning. The town was in shock. The father, a respected member of the community, had committed the unthinkable. And as for Timothy, he was left to grapple with the darkness he'd uncovered in the human heart.